Hello, welcome to the Starseed School of Illumination. I just wanted to start with showing you a picture of the window where I sit and the beautiful huge mountain range right outside the window. This talk is going to be about being on a spiritual path. So I thought it appropriate to show you the high mountains here on the edge of Siberia where I'm living and how that impacts our frequency and our connection. When you live in these high altitudes, when you live at an elevation, it's very, very different from being at other places of sea level. And I love the sea. Firstly, I love the sea and the mountains. I think even most I would choose to be at the sea. But right now I'm living in a high altitude at the base of these enormous mountains. And I noticed, because I came from sea level and right before I moved here, and I noticed a huge difference when I got to the mountains. And there were completely different spirits of the land. Everywhere is so different. So when you move into a new place, if you're like me and you're also working in spirit realms, there's no more default living anymore. We have to make peace and ask for permission and give the offerings to these spirits, because again and again, as I've moved countries into different ranges, they have required me because to do that kind of work, because otherwise life becomes miserable. Everything is just agonizingly difficult. I had to go through steps 4 and 5 times to get certain papers and all the tangle of logistical red tape, whereas other people who came in at the same time went once, got their paper, got the whatever numbers they needed to set up legal residence, blah blah blah, done. Not for me. So I started making offerings more. I mean, I already did some initiatory steps like you do, and finding out who are the spirits and talking with them and making some offerings, but they wanted bigger ones. So that's the story for another time. But I want to talk about being on a spiritual path today. And because it's so varied, there's so much information here. This might actually be quite a long video. Let's see what happens and jump right into it. You know, most people agree that life is a magical place, and there are things we cannot explain and miracles that happen for all of us at different times in our life. Most people don't really do anything with that. Scientists will also, if they're honest, admit that a lot of the ideas for certain theories or inquiries came from a source outside of them. It came in through some channeled idea. I mean, they don't call it channeling, but it came in from an outside source for this idea or this theory, and it sparked that inquiry. As sensitives and empaths, we have always known this as a real force in our lives. We look for ways to help us understand it, and there's much talk about it now, especially from the scientific communities, as they begin to catch up on what ancient wisdom has always known. And the ancient medicine people have always been doing, such as working remotely, doing remote healings for people way before any computers ever existed. So think about that. You know, this work is outside of time space. We have the easy convenience that we can still meet with people on video now, but we can also do it remotely, and you can work on people while they're sleeping. Of course, you want to get their permission. You don't want to just start showing up in the nighttime, but it can be done if someone is ill or and wants to be in bed and doesn't want to come on video. It still works for them, and they'll report back what they felt, how it went. Also, small children or animals, all of this can be done remotely without the aid of computers because it's been going on like this since the beginning of time. We also have evidence of spiritual and multidimensional life, of course, in the one of the world's most ancient temples up in the mountains of the high Himalayas and in Ladakh, where I've spent a lot of time. Any free time, I love to go there. And these temples and also the rocks surrounding the Indus River in these very specific locations, these ancient rocks that have multidimensional symbols, and also in some of the paintings on the walls, not the ordinary Buddha paintings, but and the trim in the areas surrounding some of these larger motifs, there will be smaller ones, and there, literally, I saw a definitely multidimensional creature or character and flying spacecrafts. You can also see this in evidence in biblical stories. There's one researcher, Eric von Däniken. I love watching his videos based on the books that he wrote and reinterpreting the Bible from this really interesting angle that, airplanes didn't exist back then. UFOs and things like that, there were no names for those. So it's interesting to re-examine really all these angelic forces. Were they really, the bright lights coming down? If you're interested, watch the Eric von Däniken videos. They are really, really interesting. And I love the way he speaks and the way he puts it. So it's fascinating how these symbols and these beings, they're all over our ancient history in these visual recordings of what people have left there. And I was standing right next to a high monk who, that's why I couldn't take a picture, because you weren't allowed to take photos in those monasteries. But I was with Yogi Dawa is his name, and he was part of my resources as we were traveling around. We were there together. He wasn't just in there. We were going around together in a small group, and this was right after the Kala Chakra ceremony. So anyway, I pointed this out to him. It's interesting for all of us. And it shows that our experience is nothing new. The other thing is, we can all channel, especially when you're already on your spiritual path. It's so much easier to make that connection. And the way the earth frequencies are quickening up nowadays, it is so easy now to tap into your own guide, who is the intermediary, who will deliver the information. And then you can also end up working with other sets of spirit teachers and or angelic energies or whatever it is, or other multidimensional beings who will come to your channel. But opening that clear channel, and that is through the opening of the 8th chakra. Again, another way you can use that is to open your channel, and I'll show you a little bit more about that, because we all navigate multiple worlds, multiple realms, and it's possible for all of us. It's just a matter of practicing. Think back to the first time that you learned something new, when you were studying math back in school, and you had incrementally more challenging and difficult maths courses as you went along, right? It's the same. It's just that math, reading, writing, all of those things were promoted in the schools when we were young people and learning what's important in life, and we didn't learn these other things about how to connect and feel confident in our own authentic beingness here. And so this is a learned skill, just like when you pick up a new language. You incrementally begin at a one level, and then you increase until it becomes completely fluid in your life. It's the same with channeling or learning to connect and hear the messages and receive the guidance. It's just like learning a new skill, and it takes practice and development. Another example of this is daydreaming. Many of us are beautiful daydreamers. We can really get in there and visualize and harmonize with who we really want to be in our next chapter, or with the direction that we want our life to flow. And this is another important skill that is often shut down. Doodling or daydreaming in school was taboo. This is not acceptable behavior for people to, you need focus and drive and determination, all these left brain analytical methods that were promoted throughout our life. And so much so that the right brain is seriously underdeveloped for a lot of people. And that's why being in the arts is so important. Any type of visual performance, musical arts will help you connect into your whole brain and not just have that left side analytical side. Daydreaming produces the results of what you wanted. You just didn't understand how it was logically happening by the laws of manifestation, but it's daydreaming at a beautiful and focused level. You may have also been receiving information from your guide, but it can be early on very difficult to retrieve or to understand. So I want to talk about that for a little bit. For me, it came in large packets of information, but the message was so huge that I couldn't grasp or receive all of it in one at one time. This was around when I was in my teens and early 20s. And so my guide said to me, and I heard it in multiple voices like a ringing echo, you've got to speed up and you have to get all of this in one gestalt, the whole thing. You got to pick up the whole package and then bring it down. You can't be making words and sentences because they can only hold it there in our frequency range for so long. It's really difficult for them to come down to this low density frequency that we are in the third dimension to deliver information and things. So the more we can quicken and meet them halfway, this is the best way that we can then retrieve the whole concept. So you hover there, hear the whole thing, however it happens for you. You might hear it, see it, just get an instant knowingness, but wait till you've got the whole thing. It's just a couple seconds. And then you say, aha, okay, got it. And then you come back and you can write it, type it out, whatever you need to do to put it together in a way that's going to make sense to us here in language. Now, fast forward 30 years, the frequencies are coming down at such an enormously fast rate now. It's so much easier to tap into our guides, and so much that we can be a direct channel. We can hear, see, know, and feel everything so much more clearly nowadays. I'm not sure that anyone is still struggling to receive those packets of information. Maybe if you're beginning, but once you get the hang of it, it's very easy to just open. I just open the 8th chakra. I'll show you how to do it right now. So on the in-breath, come up, opening, remembering, go slow, feel it, really feel it. And then up in here, we have like a nugget, another small ball that is known as the assemblage point. Feel around, find your assemblage point. This is where your whole reference, your worldview, from culture, from early formation of beliefs, all of that comes into this place right here. And now I'm going to take that and put it right to the center. And with the 8th chakra open, we now have a clear channel. It automatically slows you down. You immediately feel like you're in this connection. Try it. And it'll, even when you forget to put it back, like intentionally you do want to put it back, and then you're back to your normal movement. And when you're in this state, when you have opened your channel, automatic writing is a wonderful tool. This is how people have written so many books. And it's also where you can keep things recorded. You could do audio microphone and do some voice channeling. However you want to work with it is the best way. Consider setting an intention and a specific question, something to focus on, to ask, and just see what flows out, see what comes. You can use paper or typing. I've used both. It just depends on the situation. Like after I'm journeying and I come back, I'm laying on the sofa, then I sit up and I keep a journal, a specific journal just for the journeys. And that is handwritten. But when I'm like this in alignment and I want to channel some larger piece of questions or information that I'm wondering, then I do use the computer laptop and it just comes out. So either one works, both work just fine. And there it is. We can all stop doubting and worrying about this life and our future. I often remind myself how far I've come from the past burdens and past situations, and look back at past vision boards and find all the little ways, all the little things that did happen, that did come to be, and take stock in gratitude of how far you have come and where you are in your development now. Make sure you spend time on thoughts that are appreciating where you are and your surroundings, your creature comforts, and your animal friends and human friends and loved ones. Make sure you take time to appreciate all that you do have in your life right now. As a sidebar, this is not to say that pushing down your feelings, if you do have negative thoughts or upsetting things that have happened in your life, this is not to say that you should force a positive spin on it. That's considered spiritual bypassing. I mean, you definitely want to feel the feelings. You need to work through those negative feelings, but they should only last less than 2 minutes. According to scientific data, many of those feelings of anger or upset, they last something like 90 seconds. Anything longer than that is because you're wanting to hold on to them. Yeah, literally, look that up. It's true. And when you know that, when you have that new mental framework, you can look at it and say, oh, well, if I'm still feeling this same feeling on loop, then it's because you're holding on to it because you want to, because it's feeding something else. So you want to acknowledge them, feel them, let it pass. And then what happens is you need to fill it with something else. You want to empty it, say goodbye, and then do a quick turnaround and fill it in with something better. So for example, if you feel bad or embarrassed about something you said in the day, this happens probably frequently, at least for me. I'm always stumbling around or saying the wrong thing when for some of us, it takes time, even days later. And I think, oh, that would have been the perfect response. at the time, we might say something else, and then later on, you're ruminating about your day and realizing, oh, the thing you didn't speak so beautifully, you weren't so eloquent about. And so, what you want to do is feel that anxiety that comes up around it. So, feel it, see it, wait for it to drift off, and then you immediately fill it with something better, like, it's okay. That happened today. And now is a new moment. Tomorrow is another day. And this doesn't need to happen again. You just fill it with kindness. Fill it with love for yourself and saying, it's okay. That happened, but it doesn't have to happen again. Now is a new moment. And if it's something serious like grief and loss, those are really larger things that may never go away. And that is okay. But what you can do is to find something like a color or a scent that you love. And whenever that feeling of loss or grief comes, because when you lose people or pets or something like that isn't coming back, those feelings may always be with us, and that's perfectly fine. So consider filling it with a color or a scent that you can attach to those feelings every time it comes. So when that feeling of loss or grief comes back around, you have that scent in your mind's eye. The scent of lavender or roses, something really calming, or maybe the way the air smelled in that place where you visited that person. All of those can bring a calming and comfort to you in those kinds of severe instances where the feelings will keep coming. You can fill it with a beautiful color or a scent. Now, if you're irritable, now this is really common for a lot of people who struggle with balancing their emotions, and when you hold stuff in so much, when you have, like in the throat chakra, you've taken it in and silenced yourself, it will come out as anger and irritability. So there are a lot of people who are secretly angry underneath what they're presenting outwardly to the world. So consider that. Just be very honest with yourself. If you have some of this going on underneath. So I used to live in Indonesia, in Java, and I had a friend there who called it fast angry. Actually, that was me. I was very fast angry at all the no saying, naysaying, no, we can't do that. And so much that nothing would ever happen. Or you had to go through layers and layers and layers of that before any work could be done or anything productive. So it took a lot more growth and maturity for me before I was able to let that go and not let the anger come up. One Tibetan astrologer told me, reduce the angry tiger, reduce your angry tiger, because I'm also a tiger in the Tibetan and Chinese astrology, wood tiger. So it's natural. It's also already in my beingness that tiger will come out. So if this is you and you're moody and irritable and angry and sometimes need to go and shut yourself off from the rest of the world, then it's an issue of calming the mind. Calming the mind in meditation, being in nature, anything that you need to do to stop, look, and choose. And I'd like you to remember this. This is a culmination, these tips and things, of my own experience, but also years and years of many different spiritual teachers and ways of thinking. And one is this stop, look, choose. And it works brilliantly. But when these irritations come, you want to just stop. first catch it, see that it's happening. Okay, then you stop. Just do big giant pause. And then look around. What is the real situation happening? And get it into priority. How important is it? Maybe it can be let go. Maybe you can then, and then the next one is choose. So you can choose to let it go. You can choose what you're going to say, but take a long pause. You don't need to speak everything immediately. And this is just a matter of fractions of a second where all of this is happening behind the scenes. But most of the time we don't do the stop look and we jump right into choose or react. We just hurry up and think what is our reaction going to be. So consider that when you go into the stop and then look phase, you become a silent witness. Just look at what is going on. What is important here? And then choose your reaction. It will change. It will change things. And then go in, make sure you have your meditation or walks or walking in nature or walking along the beach to blow out the cobwebs, whatever it is, regularly. Make that a routine because that is going to really help you enter the next day with calmness and centering. We cannot keep on going in the drive mode, in the action mode. We must always take some time to step outside of our ordinary routine and remember to do something fun in your day. Always build in time for you to do something that you enjoy. In this way, the day doesn't rule you, you rule your day. Another great source for these kinds of issues, especially when they involve mother, father, brother, sister, close family members, your partner, children, those kinds of things, is the work of Byron Katie. It's called The Work, and specifically the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. Do that. If you have not heard of Byron Katie and The Work, you must check it out because it will transform and flip everything the way that you see it, and transform a lot of the old stories too through her technique of the work. So definitely check that out. And if at home the thoughts are still coming and looping around in your mind, what we do in shamanism is we burn them, literally. So I take a small stick, blow it in to the stick, and burn it right then and there in the candle flame. Of course, opening the 8th chakra first and connecting and just doing a very small home ceremony with the fire and burning the stick. Blow one by one each thing. What is it troubling you? And burn it. And the fire is the fastest transformation. And what happens when you do this small ceremony and burning with the fire, it reaches down into the subconscious where these programs and these attachments live. So the only way to reach the subconscious place is through ritual and ceremony. That's the language of the subconscious. So do practice having a small fire ceremony. You just collect small, thin twigs, blow it in, and burn it in the candle flame. This is where it cuts down deep at the roots, at the level of the subconscious. Very important. Now, when you do that, you want to fill it with something beautiful. So at the same time, you want to illuminate and bring in the vibrant, crystalline white light from source energy. And so through your channel, you can then fill yourself with this light. Just let it flow in like a giant waterfall throughout all your fingertips, throughout your toes, and just filling. Okay, this is another way You can do some quick self-healing and removing as stuff comes up, especially if you're going through a difficult situation and mind loops and loops and all the different aspects of this and that keep coming up. Have a bowl, have a cup of sticks. You can see mine right there, my cup of sticks. And the last thing I want to talk about today are love relationships. This is a big one for everybody. So, love relationships and difficult relationships. This is how we learn, is only through being in relationships. So, think about that. So, stop expecting the perfect relationship that fulfills you in every way. If you are arguing with your partner, and know that that is part of it. Knowing that it's not going to be in harmony all the seconds, every minute of it. This is not human nature. It's human nature when our reptilian brain comes out and the ego mind that we argue. And if you are familiar with the work of Joe Dispenza and how the brain works and the different parts of the brain, we have the reptilian brain and the neocortex. So it's good to study the brain parts, because the reptilian brain and the neocortex are very far and very different from each other. And so look at the work of Joe Dispenza. If you who is fabulous, you must already know about him. So I won't go into all of the brain information, but it is very revealing. And in a nutshell, a lot of people function from the reptilian brain, the ancient brain that is at the base of our skull. And it is needed. It is our survival brain, but does not need to take over our entire life. And many, I'm sure, who operate from this in their life to get ahead and manipulate and maneuver things, who step on people or make up lies to climb up, or they numb out in so many ways because they don't want to feel the deeper things, or fill their time with consumerism. Even physical pursuits and gym obsessions that we think are so healthy can also be addictions to cover up real issues. Now try this on. All the people that you have come in contact with are intended to be there for a reason. Just think about that for a minute. All the people that you've come in contact with are there for a reason. It's a reason that you saw them, even had the smallest conversation, work colleagues, acquaintances. Even the ones you butt heads with, or the domineering bosses who throw the papers back at you and scream at you. If you've ever had a regular job, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lesson in that. So ask yourself, did you learn the lesson? Or is this a regular occurrence in your life? Because I have lived through that and got rid of it. So I'm speaking to anybody who is living through this horrendous, tough time of lessons that you're getting from people who are entering your life, who might be stepping on you or making things up just to get ahead in life, and you become the stepping stone. So why is that? This is a lesson of your own that needs to be examined and transmuted. And the reason it keeps coming up and up and up again is because it's trying to get you to resolve it. So what I want to leave you with is for you to be aware of your own reptile urges and functions and catch them when they come up. I mean, some of them we do need, but where are you maybe getting stuck in gossip or talking about people or doing things that manipulate or position you in a certain way? That's the reptilian brain, and just be aware of it. And you can shift things to much more creative and productive modes where art and poetry and channeling and all these more beautiful flowering ideas can come into your life through the neocortex. And so just switching that, dial it down, the reptilian brain, turn it down. It is designed to keep us alive, and we need it, but not to manage our entire life. So if you've had reptiles knocking you down, and I don't mean the galactic kind, look at the lesson. It is actually internal, and they will keep on coming until you learn that lesson. Turn up your dial on self-love to the highest volume. This will help you get through those lessons, because it's really about you knocking yourself down. And that's why others are coming and doing it to you. So go back to self-love and just turn it up. Turn up the volume. And integrate any more and more and more practices that you can do to take care of yourself and be gentle and graceful with yourself. Because my last point here is that relationship with yourself is the absolutely most important one that there is. Aside from any children and loved ones, partners, you are the first importance. But some of us can take that into extreme and not get involved with romantic partners at all. Or we might not pursue companionship because there's nobody suitable, the frequencies don't match, or you just don't connect with anybody. And this can happen, and it's very common for many starseeds. So after a while, and we go back and forth. Like there might be times when you are just having fun and exploring your sexuality and all of that, but then there comes a time when you realize you don't want to intermingle with everybody. And after a while, you might become more reclusive, like a monk or a nun or a priestess, when we don't want to mix our energies with people we don't really admire or enjoy. We keep more to ourselves, and we hone our spiritual connections. I heard one guy say he was meant to be alone all his life for his spiritual development. And that may be true for him, but I know many spiritual and starseed people who have a deeper issue, and that is found in your palmistry, in your palm. So now look at both hands on the line of head, on the headline, the center one. And it's the right and left, the way I do it, it's like both are your life. The right hand is the one that's all cleaned up and presentable, like when you clean your house before the visitors are coming. And the left is what you came in with, what you're born with, and it's like more messy, and the potentials and what's happening there, like when you're living your life in your home and you haven't cleaned up everything. But this one, the right hand, is the more tidy version. So consider looking at it like that. And we want to compare what is similar, what is different. Anyway, if you've got an X in the center of one or both palms, and do you have the water hand, the spiritual water hand, which is equal parts, very balanced palm and finger length water hands. Because if you have a shorter palm and longer fingers, that's a fire hand. There's other hands, different elements. But the spiritual hand is the water. And if you have any conic fingertips, like these are rounded. If yours are more pointed, any that are really pointy fingertips, this So with combined, any combination of that, you've got the X's in the center, that has to be there. And you have a water hand and any conic fingertips. This is the hand of the nun or the priestess or the monk who is married to God, for lack of a better simile. The problem is they will often be single and spend a life very much alone because they are unknowingly wanting to get back to the safety and seclusion of that temple or monastery. What's going on is it's a combination of many past lives spent in those secluded spiritual heights. And the challenge now in this lifetime for this person in this situation is to be here, to be in romances and relationships, and still know that level of high spiritual development, but not in celibacy, in the romances, in the relationships and love marriages, and still maintain their spirit connection. So it's a very specific challenge when you have those markings, when you have that running through this incarnation. So I hope that you will tune in for the next video on energy protection and defense. That's going to be very important as well. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. If this interests you, please message me for a free consultation or book a session at the link below. Thank you for watching.